Hello, this is Scott Cordell, and this video is for homework number 4 in CSC210 Database Design. This week we're going to start using MySQL Workbench to actually work with data and actually build databases and do everything like a professional developer would do on a larger scale. We're going to actually be moving from Access now into a SQL database system, something that is actually SQL based. Access does SQL stuff just well, as you found, just as fine as anything else does, as you figured out last week. But there are some other tools that do this a little bit better. So what we're going to do is jump right in. You can see on the screen I've already opened up MySQL, so I've followed the other videos up to this point to get to where I already have a connection showing right here, and I just named mine DEV for the name of the server. You can see that I'm using the root account on the server here. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and log in and get this thing moving. Now I do want to apologize for this video this week. This one's a little bit longer than I like. Most of our videos are 5 to 7, maybe 9 minutes at the most. This one will probably be a bit longer because we're going to cover the first part of doing the entire homework here step by step. So I apologize for the time, but please, this is for everything that you need for homework, so it's going to be a little bit longer. So I'm going to go ahead and open up and get moving with our editor here. The first thing that MySQL does is open up in the workbench so that you actually have here in the middle the workspace. You have some additions over here, which basically will be a help file that will show up. My output will show here, and then all of this is other things I will have in my account. What you'll notice is most of the information is going to be empty all the time except under session. There's a few things there. Then we can look under this section and actually deal with other pieces of connections. You may not have some of these because you aren't the administrator or don't have a root account, so you may not see some of these. What I want to do first is we're going to deal with the TAL distributors database. I'm going to click open here, and you can see that in the files provided by the publisher you have 6 different files, and for one you've got TAL distributors, and then you have one called drop TAL. We're going to start with TAL, and we're not going to use any of the drop ones. We're actually going to add that into one big file in the end. So first step is I'll open up TAL, and before I do anything with it, I want to save a copy of this. I don't want to destroy the original because if something goes wrong, I need something to go back to. So I'm going to go ahead and do a file save as, and I'm going to save this in my week 4 folder in a new folder just called Homework 4. And then once I'm inside of here, you can call it whatever you'd like. I would suggest keeping the name TAL. I'm just going to put my ID in the beginning of this, and you'll see in a little bit we use this quite a bit. So here's the file. Now what I'm going to do first is, following the instructions that are provided in the lessons for this week, I want to comment out this line right here, and you do that with a /*, go to the end of the line, and then reverse that, do a //. And that's how you comment in MySQL. That means that the SQL editor and the SQL program will not recognize anything that's between these two marks here, so it will ignore this. The reason you want to ignore this is because you will not have permission to actually create a database. You can create tables and views and all kinds of other things, but you will not be able to create a database. Instead, your instructor will create a database for you, and you will be able to attach and do stuff with that. So on to the next step here. We need to attach to the database. You do not have a database called TAL alone. You have one that is your ID underscore and then TAL, and notice all uppercase. Now what I want to do is, since I've done just these 2 steps, I want to go ahead and save this. Notice that you have an asterisk here in the tab. That shows that you have changes that are not saved yet, so I'll hit save. And I want to go ahead and run it right here by clicking the lightning bolt, just to see what will happen. So first of all, it could do this command. Because I have a green check mark means that it actually did work successfully. The red X means that there's an error, and this error code of 1050 probably doesn't help you a whole lot. It says that I've already got one created. I've played with this before, so yes, I've already got one created. But here's what I'm going to ask you to add up under the use command. What I want to do is, just to make this work, I want to drop every single table that I have in this database, or that might be there, and then we're going to go through the processes of creating them over and over and over again as we run this several times. To do this, I'll use the drop table command. I'm going to use the same notation or the same system that book provider does, which is I'm going to put all my commands in uppercase just to make it easier to read. And then I'm going to put in rep, customer, item, orders, and order line, I believe. Let me just scroll through and check. So there's customer, there's orders, item, and order line. So I guess well. Alright, so we will now try this one more time. And it looks like it liked almost everything. It liked all the create. It created table rep, customer, orders, item, order line. So it liked those. But my insert is a problem. And I want you just to take a quick look. See if you can figure out why in the world I can't insert into this table called rep. Notice that we created a table called rep here. And I'm going to go down and show you a few tricks, such as how to collapse this. You can hit the minus sign so that you don't have to scroll forever. We're going to collapse up all these creates. And right here, insert into rep. Notice that rep, full uppercase, is not the same table that we created up here. We spelled it that way. So what has happened is whoever typed all these tables up, just basically that would be considered a misspelling. Now what I can do is I can fix this one, and that will get me past this one error, but I'm going to have the same problem here, and there, and there. I've got 4 different reps that get put into the table, and each of them were misspelled or uppercase instead of mixed case. Now what I'm going to suggest is, if you'll notice, let's think a little bit ahead. They did the same thing to customer. As we come down and look, there's orders is all uppercase, so is item, so is order line. So whoever did this was very consistent with their mistakes, at least. You'll find that most coders are. They're at least consistent with their mistakes, sometimes consistent with their corrections, but we're pretty consistent with our mistakes. So what I want to do is click Edit. I want to do a Find and Replace, and I'm going to do each one of these. I want to replace the misspelled rep with the correctly spelled one, and be very careful here before you hit Replace. You want to make sure that these are both correct. You don't want to misplace or misspell rep another different way to where you have to do this again. In other words, don't do RE in capital P, because then you got to go back and create that. So I'll replace all those, and I'm going to just quickly do all of these. And make sure orders here, not order. Order is a reserved word in MySQL and in SQL in general, so you want to do orders. And so at this point, I'm just going to do a quick visual check just to make sure there's rep and customer spelled correctly. There's orders, item, and order line. So what we're going to do is try this one more time, but notice down here in our grid, our output grid, it's getting a little polluted. So I'm going to right click and clear that so I can see what the output is this time that I run it. Past 11 this time. And so far it looks like everything loaded. Now we're not quite done yet, and this is the only reason this video takes just a bit longer, is just this extra step of debugging, running, saving. What we've done is we actually opened up the database, commented, edited some stuff, tried to run it, found a problem, then changed that, edited out some words here and there, added the drop, save, run it again, and notice that pattern repeats to where we edit, try to run it, then go back and edit, save that, run it again, and it's just that same pattern over and over and over. Again, I've got an asterisk here, so I want to save what I've got so far. And then there's this one other thing. All of this ran completely through line 58, or 58 different tasks ran, and there's not a single red mark anywhere if I scroll all the way back through it. Everything's positive. However, I received no output. Notice that the use command that we had up at the very top told me that it worked, the drop worked, the create worked, everything worked. I just don't have any output to look at other than a command saying 0 rows affected, or later on as I add a record at a time, there's a whole bunch of 1 row affected. So what I want to do is come up with a couple of commands that actually will help me put some output on my screen that will show me that something really did happen. And I'm going to start right here after my create table rep. Between that and my create table customer, I want to use the describe command. And I'm going to go ahead and run this once I get it put in, just to show you what this does. And here's one thing that we haven't done yet. Go ahead and select this row, and I can hit this lightning bolt with the bar on it, and it will run just that one command. And notice here in the middle now, I actually have something that looks like some of the diagrams you had back in chapter 1 that says that this table rep is consisting of a character of 2 spaces for the first row, first column I mean, and that's primary key. Last name is next with 15 and first name. In other words, what it's doing is spitting out this almost exactly. There's character 2 and 15. In other words, this tells me that what I said I was going to create actually worked. And again, that command is describe. I'm going to close this output because I'm a little limited on space here. But I would add one of those for each one of these. So anytime you use a create, follow that up with a describe command. And between those 2 commands, the create does the work, describe actually sort of documents it so that you can actually see it worked. One other command happens after you have inserted something. Now, this is the end of an insert statement. All of our commands end with a semicolon. And here's another insert, and here's another insert, and then finally the last one for rep. What I'm going to do is wait till I am done inserting. And here I'm going to run another command, sort of like describe, but it's going to show me all of the data in the table. And it is a select command. I'm going to select star. Again, that's our wildcard that says show me everything from, and then the name of the table, and be careful, spell the name of the table correctly. Once again, I'm going to select this, hit the lightning bolt with a bar on it, and notice my output here, and I'm going to move things around just a bit. There's my entire table. Show me rep num, last name, first name. I can see all of the data in the right spots. This looks just like the table view in Excel, or like a query view in a datasheet view. In Access, I'm sorry, not Excel, in Access. So what I would do is go back to every single create, add a describe for that table, and after every single insert, not every single, after every group of inserts, after the rep, add a select star from rep. After inserting all the records for customer, do the same thing. And what that will do now, let me go ahead and save this and run the whole thing, is as it's running, it starts loading up tabs here that tells me, here's my results for the describe, there's the one for the insert, and I would have, since we're doing 5 tables, I would have 5 results that show describes, and then one that says rep, one that says customer, one that says item, orders, and then order line. Almost done with this, coming into the finishing steps here. The one other thing that you would probably want to do in this to make it ready for production is right here on line 4 where we have drop table. If we try to run this now without this command, I'll show you. I'm going to just comment this out. I'm not going to delete it. Then what happens if I try to run it, it says, boom, I can't do it. There's a rep table. I can't create it again. That's why we put the drop in there. So the drops are very useful, but what we want to do is be a little more protective of this. Let's put in the command here after drop table if exists. In other words, if the table's there, get rid of it, then we go through and recreate. But I want to be sure and not do something like drop table Charlie, because I don't have one. But notice what happens here. I can't drop what isn't there. So the if exists kind of takes care of both sides of that. You're not dropping anything that doesn't exist, but if it doesn't exist, then it doesn't drop it. It doesn't give you that error either. Now what I would do is save this. Remember, we saved it in a Homework04 folder. You'll do the same thing with the next two databases, with Colonial and then with Solmeris. Get both of those done, store them all in one folder, make sure they work correctly, and then you can actually go and tell that with your select commands, you can actually see that the data is sitting there on your database ready to go. If you have any questions, please be sure to drop into the Ask the Instructor board, or be sure to drop into one of the discussion boards so that we can actually get you through this process. Thanks for watching.